everybody, welcome back to Sports Company. In today's podcast, we will be speaking with Mithila Ramani. From being a chemical engineer to playing in the upcoming IWL season to heading operations and coaching at Sisters in Sweat, Mithila has achieved a lot in her career so far. Let's find out more about her journey. Hi, Mithila. Welcome to Sports Company. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Hi, Akshita. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Mithila, Mithila, you'll be representing an IWL club, Misaka United, in the upcoming season. You are working with Sister and Sweat as the head of operations and coaching. But tell us, how did all this start? How did you get into the world of sport?
It probably started very young when I was a kid. I was born into a very academically inclined family, but my mom wanted me to play sport fairly early on, so she put me in basic things like swimming, yoga, and all of that. And then I think one of the first sports I actually tried in terms of organized coaching was badminton as a kid. And then in school, I was that one kid who just hated being in class. So I'd always find ways to get out of class to play, and sport was the easiest way because the school literally warrants for you to stay out of class, and that I realized was my ticket. So through school, I pretty much played everything. I've played basketball. I've been in athletics. I played badminton again. I eventually, around when I was 12, 13 years old, was when I played football for the first time. And that was pretty much what changed everything for me. It was absolutely, I think, like how I'd put it was love at first kick. It was beautiful. It was, even though I've played a lot of sports, I don't think I felt as at ease and comfortable as I did when I was playing football. And it was a great place to be for me because I wanted to learn more and I wanted to build on it. So at that point, we didn't have a girls' football team in my school. So me and a few of my friends, we just got together. We started playing small five-a-side games. And my coach, who was the coach for the men's team, he actually noticed us and he was like, "I'm happy to coach you guys. The only thing you have to do is you need to get more players." So I remember when I was, and by this time I was around 14. We were just playing. 2 years was just experimental, very basic. We weren't into any competitions. And then there was a point when we sort of just went from class to class with a notebook, getting names of people who wanted to join the supposedly newly formed girls' football team. And I think eventually, in the beginning, actually, everyone was like, "No way, I'm playing football. It's too rough. I'm gonna fall." And my school was not too posh or anything. We didn't really have a grass ground and all. We just had a mud ground. And but football very soon became one of the most popular sports in my school. Everyone looked up to footballers. We used to have tournaments, and eventually we actually managed to get a few athletes as well. We just convinced them that, hey, you can run, you can play football, we'll teach you. And coach, his name is Mr. Gopi. So he changed pretty much everything in terms of how I understood the sport. He sort of taught me my first few formations, like how I perceived a formation. I didn't even know there was anything called formations at that point. So I think my grassroots was completely through school. And I played, at that point, I played for Chennai district. I'm from Chennai. So I played for Chennai district and I played the first CBSE nationals. That was one of the first tournaments that I actually traveled as a part of a team for. And I realized I would never want to stop doing this. It was amazing working with a team, traveling to a new place, meeting other teams which are, doing the same thing, the kind of competition and the intensity that it brings. As a 15-year-old, I was like, I need to do this for the rest of my life. And I continued. We consistently made it to the nationals. We actually got the silver medal in the clusters. So in CBSE, you have North, South, East zone clusters. So we were the South zone, and the top two teams qualified to nationals. So we in my 11th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, we were second. And yeah, we qualified to nationals consistently, got into the circuit. By then, I played Tamil Nadu for the first time for state as well. So then I think by then I had already, me and a couple of my classmates, we were all in the same batch. So when I graduated from 12th, we had the largest batch from the football team just exit. There were close to 10 of us, out of which 8 of us were in the playing 11. So coach had his task cut out. He had to make a whole new team, but that's pretty much how much I loved my batch, how much I loved playing with them. They were my first team. So it was beautiful. And then like I told you, I was in a very academically inclined family. I did have an option to, take commerce and all of that, but I was told to take science. I studied science pretty much my whole life, and I ended up taking engineering. So I graduated in chemical engineering. I still don't know how I graduated. I think about that every day. But I graduated in chemical engineering. One thing that I couldn't do as an engineer was play organized football within my college because it was just not offered. So I played with the boys, and again, I had to find ways to leave class because that was the best way to cope with staying in college. So I picked up badminton again, and I picked up basketball again as well. So I played a little bit of basketball for my college team. They were willing to, because there were about 10 of us, so they were willing to allow us to represent our college in other, inter-college sports meets and all that. So basketball became a little bit of my outlet, but at the end of the day, football was my main sport. So I ended up continuing to compete, but outside of college, I played the Chennai district tournaments. So we had a Chennai district league, we had a Chennai league that was happening. So I played that. And by this time, I was well into college. I was in my second, third year of college. And football was always a part of my life. I realized that eventually I've made every decision in my life keeping sport and football at the epicenter of it. Like if I was able to play football somewhere, fine, I'd go there. And I think even through engineering, I know that I'd made a choice to uh, stick to academics because that was the environment at that point. I couldn't, like, it's not like I could just rebel and leave the house. Eventually I did, but by that point I was still too young. So I took it up. I still did graduate. I've been a part of the student council as a sports secretary both through school and college. Like the fun thing that happened in college was my college is notoriously sexist, and they never let any girl become a sports secretary. And eventually, I realized that it's because no girl really wanted to be a part of that kind of a system. So I thought, okay, what's the big deal? Let me just try. It's not like it's my first time I've done this in school. So I applied to be a part of that student council, and it turns out that so in college it was not an election process; it was more of a selection process where we were interviewed by the board of directors in college and a few HODs and all of that. So by then I'd actually built a very good rapport with the physical education director, and he was super supportive of me playing sport. He was super supportive of me just being in multiple sport, because at the end of the day I was representing them. So college was doing it based on convenience. Okay, so she's representing us, let's not stop her. And he told me that, I asked him first, should I apply? Is there any point? Are they going to consider me, or are they just going to say no straight off the bat because I'm a girl? He was like, I don't know, but I would still encourage you to apply. And I think that changed a lot in terms of people believing in me. I realized that that's all I needed. I just needed a little bit of that push. I applied, and the interview process, it was hilarious. It was a sea of boys. I was the only girl there. Everyone was looking at me like, what are you even doing here? And you know that extremely heavy male undertone of hi, we do this, and yeah, that was the room. That was the energy in that room. And I step into the interview hall, and we're having a conversation. They asked me about my sporting career in the past. They asked me why I wanted to stand. And I was very clear to him that I've done this before and I would like to be a part of a student council. Of course, it reflects really well if I get selected, if I'm able to build new events, tournaments, and everything, right? And I go home, interviews done. I go home. So my physical education director, his name is Mr. Wesley. So he calls me later in the evening, and he's like, Mithila, I wanted to be the first one to tell you this, but congratulations, you're the first girl to be the sports secretary of our college in the last 20 years. And it was a huge moment for me because it was just a small badge. It was something that I had the opportunity to do. But I realized that I just had to put myself out there in the first place. If you're never going to show people that you're an option, they're never going to pick you. And that was one of my biggest learnings going into it, because then I realized I could actually get my college to go into a few, tournaments, college level sports meets. And we went to Manipal, we went across the city in Chennai, and we went to Velur, we went BIT, we went to Sastra, we went to a lot of places who were all tech heavy institutes, but had a sport side to them as well. So it was so nice to connect with people. I think I built some of my best networks, and a few of my extremely good friends came from my circle of sport. And I think, yeah, like carrying that energy forward is what landed me in Bangalore. I was done with engineering, fourth year, and there was a movie that was supposed to be shot in football. And I was the team that I was a part of in the Chennai league. They were asked to send a few girls because the production company wanted to shoot realistic football scenes. They wanted to have actual footballers play football so they could capture that on camera, and they didn't want actors to be there because it would look fake at that point, right? So a few of us got sent to this place. I had no idea what the movie was, who was going to be acting in it, nothing. I just like, okay, it's a football movie. I'm there. Let's just go. I went there, and it turns out that it was by one of the superstars in Tamil cinema, actor Vijay, and he was making a movie called Bigil. And I realized it was such a new experience for me, and it was right around the time I was graduating college. So I didn't sit through placements, I didn't sit through any job interview, I didn't write any MBA exam, I didn't write any entrance. I just went for a movie shoot. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing at that point. I just trusted my gut, and I was like, okay, fine, let's just do this. And yeah, I ended up meeting Tanvi there, Tanvi Hans. And it turns out, so I'd actually met her a couple of years back, and I was following her on Instagram because she'd made it to London and she'd played in the leagues in the UK. So I was so thrilled. I couldn't believe I was meeting her, and we became friends in the process. And a lot of other, I met a lot of footballers. I realized I haven't interacted so much with footballers from other states through a movie than I did in even in, like, let's say, a nationals, right? Because in the nationals, everyone's focused on competing. They have their own team, they stick to it. But since this was a slightly more relaxed setting, it was beautiful because I met so many footballers from Manipur, Haryana, Delhi, Bangalore, and through Bangalore were these guys, Tanvi and Riddhi, and few of them, a bunch of my friends I think that was one of the most pivotal moments in my life in the last 3 years, because there was one night when we had a night shoot. So to what happens is, in a movie, to shoot night scenes, they start at 6 p.m. and end at 6 a.m. And it was grueling. It was a crazy experience. It was for me to understand how a movie is shot and everything, right? But at the end of the day, we were still just playing football. Now we were playing football in front of a camera. And and like I said, I met Tanvi. We got to talking, and she was telling me that, hey, one of my friends and I, we've just been doing this women's coaching program. We just coach a few women on the side. And we got to talking about that because somehow I knew around third year of college that I really enjoyed sports management. I didn't know in what capacity I wanted to be involved. I had no clue what sports management was. I just knew that I wanted to be in sport. And I started researching about colleges. I read up about a few masters colleges in the UK and Europe and all of these places where even a few of my seniors from engineering had gone. So I knew there was a pathway there. I just didn't know what the starting point was or how to get to it. And I also didn't want to make the mistake of just blindly applying to a master's without having any experience at all in the industry at any point, right? I wanted to explore a little bit in terms of how management actually works, or because I've been a player my whole life. I got my coaching license. I did a D license. I got to talking with Tanvi about that, and this was at 2 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. We were sitting in our caravans and we were just sipping chai and we were talking about this. And I told her, hey, I'm looking for opportunities in sports management and in women's football in particular. She said, hey, why don't you come to Bangalore and intern with us? And initially, my biggest thing was wherever I went, I wanted to play. I wanted to make that conscious step only if I got an option to play. And it turns out that Karnataka Women's League was happening at that point, and they had just finished their season. And I met a few players from there who were a part of our shoot. So they were talking very highly of how the league was held, and they were constantly appreciating how organized it was. Because back then in Chennai, we had something called the Chennai League, but it didn't really lead to anything. Like you didn't have a promotion to something, you didn't have a relegation to anything. You're just playing a league because you have competition, right? And it turns out that the Karnataka Women's League winner ends up going to the IWL. So that was the first season when they introduced that rule. And this was around 2019 in June. And I was thinking on what to do at that point. I realized that I did need a little bit of experience. So I went down to Bangalore for a weekend when we weren't shooting, and I just attended a Sisters in Sweat session. I enjoyed it a lot. I think also Tanvi was looking for a coach. So because I had a license, that really helped because I could jump into the system, I could help them coach, and then also be a part of helping them build the company itself. Because in 2019 was around when they had just incorporated Sisters in Sweat as a company. And they just registered a website and it was so nascent. And I really enjoyed the fact that I could build something from scratch, right? And not too many people get that opportunity straight out of college. So it was very exciting to me, but it was also really scary because I had to speak to my parents and say that, listen, I might just have to, take that step, go to Bangalore. Of course, they were not straight off the bat okay with it. They would have always, at the end of the day, liked the fact that I would have, picked an engineering job, stayed stable in it. Because when I did something, I did chemical engineering, which is very heavily core. It's not even like IT, right? So even the jobs that you take up are very heavily time based, or like I'm so into sport right now, but there is a side to me that understood petrochemical engineering at one point, and I'm so surprised I even have that side to me because there's a lot that's changed in terms of how I perceive sport and how much, I've deeply gone into sport. But it's crazy to realize that I have that side to me as well. But yeah, I just told them I have to take this chance. But at that point, SS was so small that there was just me and my colleague Sachi who had joined at that point. She had moved down from Dubai, so it was very coincidental that we were both in Bangalore for the first time of our lives, in terms of settling in Bangalore, right? So I took a one-way ticket, landed up at a PG in Korumangala, and that was my move. And at that point, I couldn't just do SIS alone because it was a few hours a week of work because it wasn't at scale at that point. I took a part-time job at Decathlon. I was doing an internship slash part-time job, so that helped. And by that time, I had incorporated into the system because Tanvi was playing for a club called Parikrama FC. So I tried out for that club as well, and I got in, and that was my in into the system. So this was 2019 was just all about me just throwing myself into whatever opportunity I got, because I think even my parents wanted to see if there was truly something valuable here, or is she just doing whatever. Like it's such a parent thing to have, right? Like
Yeah, definitely. So, like in your journey so far, there's one thing that's very interesting that, in school you had a teacher called Mr. Gopi who created an entire setup for all of you to explore the world of football, right? And then you enter college where you were the first sports secretary in 20 years. So, there's a drastic difference. Plus, the environment at home where, academics were preferred over sports. So, you've seen different tangents of things. So, tell me about the importance of a supportive environment at home, in school, in college for the growth of an athlete in our country.
Yeah, I think given the journey that I've had so far, I think that is probably top of the pyramid. You need to have that support in the first place if you want to build a career around it, right? Like it's only now because I've put myself through understanding the sport industry, interacted with multiple people, that I'm understanding that there are people who have careers in sport who also are able to manage academics convincingly well. And it's because they're able to have that kind of support from home, from their educational systems, whatever they are, to be flexible in terms of when they take their exams. Something as simple as that, But as long as they have that support, it is possible. It's whether you're willing to make it happen or not. So I fully think that's one of the top things in the pyramid. It starts with the support and then trickles down from there.
And from a child's perspective, since of course that there was not a girls' team in your school, right? So of course from the beginning you knew somewhere that the world of sports is sort of different from for women as compared to men. So from a child's perspective, what were some of the things that you picked up in the beginning, and how did it shape you as an athlete?
Yeah, so I think initially when I started swimming and playing badminton, I didn't even realize that this was a gender thing. I just did it for fun because it was sport. I think in those initial years of your life, it doesn't matter to you as long as you're out there, you're having fun and you're playing. I think it's only around when you become a teenager that you start realizing the differences. You start understanding the physical differences as well in terms of ability and how much focus is being given. It's only around then for the first time when I heard, oh, it's not a girl's sport. Till then, I didn't even understand what that meant. What is a girl sport and a boy sport? It's sport. It shouldn't matter. So yeah, I absolutely think that in the early years of my life, I had no difference. I just wanted to play because I played. But it's only around school when the difference in sport steps in. And also, that is a huge societal mindset, right? Like, a lot of teachers are looking at you saying, are you sure you want to play football? What if you break your leg? What if you, get hit in the face? You're not going to look good. But you never second guess a boy to do the same thing. You're like, boys are like this, they do this. But the more normalized, I think now it's way more normalized than how things were. Even like I was in 10th standard 10 years back when I was 15, right? And 10 years back, I think I would say that my school was the better one out of a lot of other schools where they have no sport, they have no ground. So I would consider myself really lucky to have landed up in a system like that where my coach was willing to take a chance on us. But there were, of course, a lot of backlash to how we were allowed to just play, and a lot of backlash from the parents as well. Like, will my daughter be safe coming back home at 7 in the evening because she has practice from 5 after school? So it's small things like that which are the difference, but they are a make or break in whether a girl takes up sport or not.
But like you've traveled for nationals across the country, you've played with athletes from different parts of the country. Now, as a coach, you train young girls. How do you think the of course the setup of football has changed over the years? That's one. And what are some of the things that we can incorporate to make sure that the world of football is more gender neutral?
So I think in terms of safety and travel, it's number one in terms of keeping, let's say, young girls who travel to a destination to, let's say, play, right? I think for us, the maturity that came in from ourselves as well, because we knew we were traveling for a certain purpose. And the extra efforts that my school took in terms of sending a couple of extra teachers just to take care of us was actually amazing, because I felt really safe traveling with my team wherever it is that we went, whether it was districts or clusters or nationals, wherever it is. So I think a little bit extra effort from schools is necessary, because whether you like it or not, the society is built a certain way in terms of safety for women, and the only way to beat it is pushing more girls out there. Let them go and experience the world. You keeping them in a pigeonhole because you're scared of how the world is not a viable solution. How long are you going to keep girls locked up? It's important that they experience the world, and it's also really empowering because you get to see the world in a mood that maybe not maybe, definitely you wouldn't have just sitting at home and being safeguarded. I think the real safeguarding comes in when you put yourself out there, learn about the world. So it's always been small things like this, whether it's a state tournament, there's always been extra precautions taken to travel as a girls football team, or even through college. I think we had some really supportive. So when we traveled in college together, we traveled as an entire unit. So we had boys football team, girls football team, because the sports meet would have a lot of others, right? So I think we really we had a very I would say a very conducive men's sporting unit as well through college, because they would help us around if someone felt unsafe or if there were situations where they needed that support. So I think having that support system is crucial.
And how do you think the perception of young girls towards football has changed over the years? Like now that you interact with younger girls, how do they look at the sport?
Oh, very differently. I think when I started off in the sport, I didn't have a reference point. I had a few. I mean, the first player that I saw was Mia Hamm, and she was she's a legend in the sport, right? But by the time in a, s- I was around 15. She was already in her twilight phase of her career. She was retiring, but that's around the time when there were players like Megan Rapinoe, Carly Lloyd, and Alex Morgan. All of them just starting out. So for me, what really helped was having that reference point to look at. So I think that was the start. Right now, girls have a lot of people who they can look up to, and that's what changes perception. When you have somebody who you can relate with, saying, "Hey, she made it. I really think I can as well." And I think that really helped. Even somebody very close to my circle as well. Like, for example, for me, it really helped watching Tanvi do what she did, because she's only a few years older than me, and she managed to go to the UK. She managed to play. She managed to come back, build a business in the sport, and still manage to continue playing. So that was pivotal. You need examples sometimes in life. Of course, you can be the flag bearer and lead out a way. But I think the perception is changing a lot more for girls, because they're able to watch women play. They're able to relate to the characters in play. So I really hope people become more Alexia Putellas fans, Beth Mead fans, and Viviana Miedema fans, women's football or anything like that. But I think it can definitely exist in tandem.
Mithila, a message for all the girls out there who are looking to make a career in the world of sports.
I think the best place to do it is to actually start. Just play sport. I think one of the biggest learning curves I've had in terms of being a part of Sisters in Sweat was age is never going to be a barrier. I've seen women who are 40 plus just kick a ball for the first time in their lives. So if they're that old and willing to put themselves through learning sport, taking baby steps to it, I'm sure as a kid having all that energy. The biggest reason my mom put me in sport was she didn't want that kind of energy at home, because she was like, you get really tired, you come home, you sleep. So I think the biggest thing that could really work for you is to actually play, put yourself out there. You'll discover a world that's so beautiful, that's so vast, filled with so many like-minded women who actually want to play. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So I think to take that first step and to play would be a huge step.
Thank you so much, Mithila, for speaking with us today. Very grateful to you for your time.
Thank you, Akshita. This was fun. I love talking about sport. Like, I get really excited, and it's awesome speaking. It's I really love the fact that you're doing a podcast like this. So I hope more people get to watch it and more women get into sport.
Looking forward to speak to you again.
Yep, you as well. Take care.